Okay, so what we have here is a tier list of all the Cradle of Filth albums as they exist today in 2025, with their newest release, The Screaming of the Valkyries. Now, what I'm going to go through is rank each and every one of the major Cradle of Filth albums that have been released, as well as some of their side albums, at least the more important or more interesting side albums that have released. With that said, here's the rankings. We have S, which is the tippy top, life changing tier. We have A for amazing albums that are absolutely worth experiencing. We have the B tier, which are great albums, but maybe not all the songs are absolute bangers. The C tier is definitely worthwhile if you are a fan of Cradle of Filth. Otherwise, you're better off with the S, A's, and B's. Now, D tier, unfortunately, albums that fall into the D tier consist mostly of below average songs. These are albums that you should probably avoid, even if you are a fan of Cradle of Filth. And finally, we have F tier, which is the flawed and filthy tier, because if it falls this far down, well, there's some reasons for that, and you will find at least one album that falls into this tier right here. So let's do a kind of a squeezing towards the middle of sorts with album releases, at least for a certain extent, and then we'll kind of switch it up. So first up, we're going to go with the newest Cradle of Filth release, which is The Screaming of the Valkyries. Now, this album just came out in, I believe, March of 2025. And this album, if I had to put a very quick sum to it, or sort of theme to it, is nostalgic. You'll find a lot of different sounds and callbacks and throwbacks to prior Cradle albums. If you're a fan of albums like Midian, you'll find some songs that kind of have a Midian type sound to it. Thornography, you'll find some songs that have a bit of a Thornography feel to it. It's kind of a bit across the board. It's like almost like a greatest hits while also being its own album. So where does it stand in my listing? Well, it's gonna be right here in the B tier. So it's a great album. Not all songs are bangers, and to kind of super highlight that, we have probably the worst opening track in any Cradle album ever. Is the opening track for this album, which is To Live Deliciously. I don't have the exact titles in front of me, but yeah, as an opening track, that one is, well, it's just not great. It's certainly below average. It sounds a bit monotonous, with how it kind of the chorus sort of chimes in. We wish to live deliciously. Not that great of a listen. Certainly a pass, and not a good start to an album. This song in particular sounds like it should have been one of those songs that you get on a bonus CD for a Cradle album. It should definitely not have been the opening song to Live Deliciously for this album. Unfortunately, it is, but that's the worst that this album is, and everything else from here on gets better, increasingly better. Now, the next two songs, Demagoguery and The Trinity of Shadows, those are probably like average Cradle songs, and maybe even slightly above average. They are pretty good. And I've listened to this album many times, at least 20 times for this album, and other Cradle albums I've listened to. Some of them are probably getting close to 100 times. I've listened to these albums a lot. Now, the middle of this album, Screaming of the Valkyries, is where it really shines. Some absolute amazing songs here. I rank these songs from 1 to 5 stars, and the middle 4, starting with Nam Omnis Moriera, whatever that pronunciation is, all the way through to Malignant Perfection. Each of those songs are 5 out of 5 stars, all 4 of them. Just amazing songs, and because of how good those songs are, that kind of props up the rest of the songs that are either average, great, or in the case of To Live Deliciously, below average. And it hoists up this album to be a great overall album. And not all songs are bangers, and that's we don't want to live deliciously in here for too long. All right, so that was the very newest album from Cradle. So let's rank the oldest album, and that is The Principle of Evil Made Flesh. And if you're wondering what is F tier worthy, it's this one. And I am sorry if this hurts some of your hearts and ears and all of those things, but unfortunately, this is a flawed album. It's very filthy, and that is the sound quality, the audio quality of this album. It's absolutely filthy. It was clearly the first album. It sounds like a demo album, and it has a very low budget production value to it. Now, that's not to say that the song writing and the song structures and what is there is bad. It isn't. The songs there are actually really good, but it is, like I said, it is flawed. The production quality really does hurt how much this particular album can shine. And because of that, you find it in the F tier. Now, let's go back up to the second to newest, the album that released just before the Screaming of the Valkyrie, and we will have Existence is Futile. Now, this album has a theme that hits very hard for the timeline that it released. It released during the 2020, 2021, 2022 years, where the world was hectic, and this album was perfectly timed. It landed exactly where it needed to be, and not only thematically did it land with the right timing, but when it comes to the songs that are present within this album, right from the very start through to the end, this album is absolutely amazing. It is in the A tier, definitely an album worth listening to. And to put it into perspective, this album opens up with an amazing 5 out of 5 star song, Existential Terror. Amazing song. And the follow-up to that is Necromantic Fantasies, another 5 out of 5 type song. And then it has Crawling King Chaos, which is a little bit of a pullback. It's a 4 out of 5, but still a great song. And then some of the middling songs are, a bit average, but pretty much most of the songs on this album are great or 5 out of 5s, amazing. And one song in particular, which is the 7th song on the track, Discourse Between a Man and His Soul. That is a 5 out of 5, if not potentially a 6 out of 5 type of song. It is so good. And all of that within this overall package that really does, it gets pretty close. I'm not sure if this is officially a concept album, but as an overall package, it felt like a concept album, and it delivered really, really well. And it also had a bit of a funness to the sound as well. Really good album, as you see here. Amazing. Now, let's move backwards to the second album. So the next one after Principle of Evil Made Flesh. And this is not a full album. This is one of those sort of side albums. It doesn't count as a full studio album. And that is Vempire. Now, what I will say with Vempire is that immediately you notice a big step up in audio and recording production quality. And that's kind of what really kind of sets Cradle of Filth with an upward trajectory, is this particular album showing that it's not just, the sound of crude filth and sort of low budgetness. You had something that was produced not amazingly, but had some degree of production in there. It felt like there was a bit of a budget behind it, and it didn't get in the way of the instrumentation, which there is a lot of different instrumentation goes in on any particular Cradle of Filth song, never mind entire albums, and it can get pretty complex to listen to, and you need that better quality recording quality in order to kind of hear everything clearly enough without it sounding like just noise. Because most people that listen to Cradle of Filth, if they're not tuned to it, it sounds like noise. But Vempire, and being the second album out from the band, roughly, there might have been some other odd shoots in there, but it landed, and boy did it land real good. It is A tier. Not only is it A tier, and by the way, anything that's to the left most of a particular tier is going to be the most significant or the higher ranked. So Vempire, absolutely ranked higher than Existence is Futile. This album is amazing, has some incredible songs. Queen of Winter Throne being an absolute 5 out of 5 song, also being one of Cradle of Filth's longest songs that they've written. It's well over 10 minutes long. Just an amazing album, amazing songs. There's only, I believe, 6 songs on it, and one of them is instrumental, but just awesome album. And it's, even though a Cradle album, this one in particular only having 6 songs, lengthwise, it'll be longer than some punk rock albums. Just given how long some of these songs can go, or the average Cradle song goes compared to other genres of music. There you have it, Vempire. Yeah, it's great. Definitely, it's beyond great. It's an amazing album. All right, so now let's go a bit more forward. And what was the album that released just prior to Existence is Futile? Well, that was Cryptoriana. And I'm going to, let's change things up a bit here. I'm going to now, instead of kind of squeeze in from the outskirts of the timeline, let's just jump around in the middle and let's fill out some of this other stuff here. And let's just get away with the elephant in the room, the absolute worst album from Cradle of Filth, which is Manticore. And other horrors, but the Manticore album. This album is just filled with mediocre, average Cradle songs. There isn't any kind of cohesive theme that ties everything through. It's pretty much, there is a theme. The theme is chaos. There's just, it's a very chaotic sounding album. It didn't sound as if there was thought put into how each of the individual songs that are recorded here, which, by the way, as I said, they're all pretty much average, how they all cohesively fit within a singular album. And that's probably the biggest flaw of Manticore. Now, there is one really good song on here, which I believe is Frost on Her Pillow. Yes. So Frost on Her Pillow is a great song, but this album, it opens up with the abhorrent average song. The very next song, For Your Vulgar Delectation, that's a below average song. And then everything else, other than Frost on Her Pillow, I have here ranked at average. And this album overall is pretty much that. It is an average and unfortunately below average. It's average for individual songs, even though there's a below average and a great song, but only one out of them. And just overall as a collective piece, as an album, it's just below average, especially when compared to like Cradle of Filth standards. Compared to like other bands, yeah, this album is actually pretty good, but on the Cradle of Filth sort of comparing against other Cradle of Filth albums, this is definitely in a league of its own as far as rubbish below average is concerned. And that is Manticore. Now, another important thing about Manticore is this album was so bad of a listen when I first picked it up that I was looking forward to the next Cradle of Filth album, And that, depending on how that next Cradle of Filth album turned out, would either decide whether I continued to be a Cradle of Filth fan or not. That's what Manticore did. I was a Cradle of Filth fan right from pretty much from the very start, listening to Dusk and Her Embrace and Cruelty and Beast and stuff like that. But Manticore was so abhorrent that I put the entire weight of my future Cradle of Filth interests in album purchases and concert goings based on the next album. And thankfully, the next album, which was Hammer of the Witches, thankfully, it was better than Manticore. Was it D tier better? Nope. It was C tier better. Unfortunately, and this may break some hearts, Hammer of the Witches, although good, and definitely good if you're a fan, it's definitely worth listening to if you're a fan. However, it wasn't amazing. It lacked those standout, amazing songs and a plethora of them. There are some decent songs on Hammer of the Witches. And some greats, like Deflowering the Maidenhead is a great song. Yours Immortally, which is the opening song for the album, that's a great song too. And let's see, Right Wing of the Garden Triptych, another great song, but everything else, including the title track of the album, Hammer of the Witches, that song in particular, a bit average overall on sound, and that one has some cool aspects to it, like the guitar, sort of the hammering of the guitar riff, that sort of drive. It sounds like pretty. That's a pretty good sound, but overall, as for a song, especially for a Cradle song, it's a bit on the average side. King of the Woods is a bit below average, but then you get to that sort of that middling area where you hear the chanting of the witches. That's a fantastic part of the song, and that kind of elevates it to, well, just average, really. Misery Chord, just average. There's a lot of average songs on here, and nothing. Unfortunately, there isn't enough to sort of lift it above C tier, so it kind of stays in here in C tier. And because of that, so Hammer of the Witches was better than Manticore. So I decided, okay, Hammer of the Witches was not what I was looking for. I wanted something better, but this is a positive trajectory, so I'll give it another shot. And the album after that was Cryptoriana. And let's bring Cryptoriana out here. Now, Cryptoriana, once again, was another decider. I decided, like, after Hammer of the Witches, let's see how the next one turns out, and hopefully that one is at least on par with Hammer of the Witches, or better. And it was. D tier. Definitely D tier. Now, do I like Cryptoriana above the Screaming of the Valkyries? Unfortunately, I do not. But it's pretty close, because Cryptoriana ended up being pretty good overall as an album, and it's definitely a great album that they have. And there's some definite call-outs, including which every album should have this, regardless of what genre it's in. The opening song for an album should be a standout. It should be a banger. Absolute banger. Now, ideally, you want every single song on the album to be a banger, but you need to at least have the very first song. The opening track needs to be a banger, and thankfully, Heartbreak and Seance is really good. That is a great song. It's not the best song on the album, but that is a great song and a great song to open up the album with. And it continues. Pretty much the first 3 songs on this album are great or amazing, like Wester Vespertine. That is an amazing 5 out of 5 type song. Really, really good. Then the middle of this album is a little bit on the average side, and probably the worst on the album is You'll Know the Line by His Claw. Even though I ranked that song as being average, I had to like lift up that ranking. Like I tried but it should have been like a 2 out of 5 type of song. It pretty much is one of the most average Cradle of Filth songs. It's totally skippable. There's nothing memorable about it other than every now and then you'll know the line by his claw. Great. And there's kind of nothing else really to take away from that particular song. However, this album has not one, but 2 5 out of 5 songs, and the second one, which is towards the tail end, and it really lifts up the tail end of the album, which is The Night at Catafalque Manor. That is an awesome song. Really great one, and just that coupled with Wester Vespertine really lifts this album up overall. And there's no like absolute dead weight on this album, and it has a great opening, and that's why it lands solidly in the sort of the greats, but not all the songs are bangers like You'll Know the Line by His Claw. So what do we have next? Next, let's tackle this one over here. And no, this is not Dusk and Her Embrace. This is just a placeholder art for From the Cradle to Enslave. So if you're wondering what this is From the Cradle to Enslave. This is another one of those side albums. And I believe this one has 5 songs. Let me double check. It has 6 songs. And where would I rank it? Well, it's pretty much right here. It's worthwhile if you are a fan of Cradle of Filth. And what makes this album, I mean, there's only 6 songs, and it's not like the album is super long. One of the songs is there's a couple that are covers, like Death Comes Ripping is a cover, and I believe there's also like Futile in Carpathia, which is really from Dusk and Her Embrace. So when it comes to like unique original songs, you know, it's basically 4, but then you know, it's a little bit of a mix. But what is here, you have some songs that are absolutely amazing on this album, like the title track, From the Cradle to Enslave. Amazing song. Probably the one thing about this song is that it is fun, absolutely fun to listen to. Great song. That song is, so this album sound wise is like the precursor to Midian, and that song in particular is one of the best that you would get. It's up there with some of the best from Midian itself. Just an amazing song, but as an overall album, it's, you know, it is a little bit on the short side. It's a little bit, you know, weird with the covers and the recreations, and even that recreation of Funeral in Carpathia. That it's not super different. It's different, but it's not very different. It's not different enough, and it doesn't really improve upon things. It might even like make the original song seem a bit worse. Thankfully, the original song still exists and is still great to listen to. So there's that. So it's indeed going to be placed in the C tier. And at the back end of the C tier, Hammer of the Witches certainly above From the Cradle to Enslave. Now, where do we go from here? I think the S tiers is a bit, you know, missing a bit. So I'm just going to do what everyone wants me to do and take Dusk and Her Embrace and put this album, whoa, come on, let's get into that S tier. S tier. S tier. S tier, please. Thank you. Everyone knew this was coming. I mean, it's Dusk and Her Embrace. It's their second official full studio album, and man, does it land real hard, real good. It is artful and artsy as you know. It is super good. There is a story that's being presented within the lyrics, within some of the particular songs. It's just, you can use your imagination and you can kind of envision as you're listening to the song itself what is happening with certain characters and certain dialogues almost happening between these characters. One song in particular is a gothic romance. That one is just sorry, not a gothic romance, even though that song is great. Malice Through the Looking Glass. That was the one I meant to reference. There's a moment in that song where it's like two different characters sort of having a conversation with each other, but they're also singing. So it's kind of like a musical of sorts, and that's just one song that pulls off that. And it's just overall, the album is absolutely incredible. This is one of those albums that's an 11 out of 10. It will change your life, and that's why it's in the S tier for life changing. This album, now depending on you, what kind of person you are, you're either going to be someone who will love Cradle of Filth or someone who will hate Cradle of Filth. There kind of really isn't much of a middle ground with Cradle of Filth. Maybe you can like them or hate them, but it's pretty much going to be an extreme for an extreme type of band. And the best way to start with getting into Cradle of Filth, if it jives with you, is this album right here, Dusk and Her Embrace. So that is why it is S tier, because if this album hits, you're going to be a Cradle fan for the rest of your life. All right, so let's move on to let's get some more middle ground. Let's go with the start of the decline from my eyes, and that is Godspeed on the Devil's Thunder. And it is indeed in the B tier. It's still a great album, but I started to notice this trend with Godspeed, because the album after Godspeed was Manticore. The one that we shall not speak of, I guess. Godspeed on the Devil's Thunder, concept album, really good. I love the concept of it. The theming of it is really good. It's got a very evil theme throughout the entire album, because just what is being depicted within the story and within the lyrics is very evil. This album is quintessential pure evil. But it was a step down from it started to indicate to me a step down in songwriting and song composition and sort of variety, and having sort of that unique Cradle of Filth oomph. I started to see that decline with this particular album. So it's still a great album overall, and there are some absolutely amazing songs on that album, like The Death of Love. That is definitely a 5 out of 5. But, there's a lot of average songs on this album, and, Shout Out of Hell, that's not a great song. It's average, and average might be a little generous for it. 13th Caesar, that song could have been a great song, but it ended up being a bit average. It needed something more in there, and it was missing it. It's kind of felt like Cradle was restructuring in some way, talent-wise or what have you, and they're kind of soul searching while also kind of doing like a phone in, kind of rubber stamping these albums out. And by these, I mean this particular album, Manticore after it, and Hammer of the Witches. Hammer of the Witches, you can definitely notice a revitalization with sort of incorporating the talent and sort of the complexities and the things that make Cradle of Filth Cradle of Filth. You can kind of see that brewing in Hammer of the Witches, but it didn't quite land, but it was brewing. You could feel it. But Godspeed on the Devil's Thunder, it was there. It had, it's still brewing, right? But or not necessarily brewing, but it was sort of like the start of the decline. So unfortunately, that's Godspeed on the Devil's Thunder. A little great, but it could have been so much better, especially given the content, the subject matter about what it's about, the serial killer from France and in the medieval times and whatnot. All right, so the album before that, so it might have been a little bit of a spoiler where I said, "Hey, Godspeed was a little bit of a downturn," and the album before that was Darkly, Darkly, Venus Aversa, and well, yeah, this album was absolutely amazing. This was another concept album, and something to note is that Godspeed was a concept album, and Darkly, Darkly was a concept album. So they busted out 2 concept albums back to back, and Darkly, Darkly was absolutely amazing. Just from start to finish, they nailed everything about the concept, what they wanted to achieve, and they nailed it all the way through. And the story that they were telling, you could follow it. It had a kind of a beginning, middle, end. It even had like a hero or maybe even anti-hero type character in there with I believe the dude's name was Isaac, and it was just overall a great album, and it had a very different, very aggressive sound. And thematically, Darkly Darkly had like this theme of fear, something to be fearful of, which was the main character. But the sound of this album was just brutal, aggressive, and so fast. This is the fastest album that Cradle, the fastest sort of tempo album that Cradle has across the board, and it's not even close. Like no other album comes this close. And it is, some songs can get brutally fast, and it's just relentless because pretty much almost every song has that relentless speed to it, and it is just going at a rampant pace because there's a lot of material to get through, a lot of sort of ebbs and flows for each individual song, and it just churns through it very quickly. And it was such a unique listening experience that that kind of just caused me to just really appreciate it when it came out, and appreciate it in the long term over the years of listening to this particular album. Just absolute great songs, and it opens up with an absolute banger of a song, a 5 out of 5 for an opening song, which was The Cult of Venus Aversa. Amazing song. And some of the middling songs like Deceiving Eyes and Lilith Immaculate, also 5 out of 5s. And then it has a song that's which is Forgive Me Father, I Have Sinned. That's kind of like your Her Ghost in a Fog-esque style song. And also just a 5 out of 5. It is absolutely a great song, an amazing song. And that's 4 5 out of 5 songs on this one album. Then everything else is great, and there's a couple of averages, like One Foul Step from the Abyss, The Nun with the Astral Habit, as well as Harlot on a Pedestal. Those are all like the average ones, but everything else is great or better. And that's kind of what makes this album so amazing, is that it opens up strong, it closes strong, and the middle is absolutely rock solid. And so it's just a great overall album. Now, with regards to its placement, yes, it is placed right above Existence is Futile, but score-wise, when I was scoring out these albums, these 2 albums were tied, but I gave the edge to Darkly Darkly because it's a concept album, whereas Existence is Futile, unless I missed the memo, isn't really, it felt like a concept album, but it wasn't. Alright, so let's move on. Let's see here. Let's go with Nymphetamine. Sure. So, Nymphetamine. And I'll also pull up Thornography after that as well, because they both released simultaneously. You know, we'll do the 3. So Nymphetamine, Thornography, and Damnation in a day, because I kind of put these 3 into like their own little package, because they're kind of a set. They were produced during a time when Cradle had the ultimate budget that they would want, and that kind of ties into like how each of these were produced. Now the budget, so Damnation came out first, and then it was Nymphetamine, and then Thornography came out after that. And the budget was spent on Damnation in a day. And Nymphetamine was kind of like the anti-budget. But they did some experimental stuff with the recording of Nymphetamine, and that is part of what makes Nymphetamine interesting. I'm going to rank it in the B tier, but above Godspeed on the Devil's Thunder. Because it is a great album, and there are some great songs, and some of their best songs, and songs that they won awards for. I can't remember if it was like Grammys or MTV awards, but they definitely won awards for Nymphetamine, like the title track, Nymphetamine. That definitely won them some awards, and that's certainly a 5 out of 5 type song. And there's a lot of great songs on here, but that's the only 5 out of 5 on this album. Everything else is great or average. And the opening song on this album is Gilded Cunt. It's okay. It's average. It is a little fun. It's a fun song, but it's, kind of average. And there's a few other. It's not the only average song on here, but there are some great songs on here. Like Coffin Fodder is great. English Fire is great. Gabrielle is great. Nemesis is great. Absent with Frost. Those are all great songs on this album. Swan Song for a Raven, if that wasn't a sequel to Her Ghost in the Fog, I probably would have ranked it a little lower, but because it was, it got bonus points and became average. The opposite. If it wasn't a song that was the sequel to Her Ghost in the Fog, I would have ranked it higher. But because it was, I was expecting more from that song, and it didn't deliver on it. So it became just an average type of song. But overall, the album is definitely, inarguably great, but, it could have opened up better, and it certainly could have closed better. Although Mother of Abominations, that's definitely a fun closer, but when you listen to the song, like really listen to it, it opens up very strong, but other than that, after the opening, it kind of closes meh. Like it has an average sound to it that isn't memorable and stand out as compared to some of the other songs like Coffin Fodder or English Fire. And one last thing about Nymphetamine before I forget. The way that they record that album, I believe they did something like they recorded all the musical performances all at the same time collectively together instead of like separate tracks individually. And you could tell when you listen to the album. I could tell when I first picked up the album and listened to it. I could definitely tell that the recording quality was unique. It wasn't necessarily better or worse. Certainly not better. I wouldn't say it's worse. It was just different, and it had a more authentic sound to it. A little bit more towards what you'd get in a live performance. So it made it interesting. All right, now the album after that is Thornography. And Thornography might be the most controversial Cradle of Filth album, because this album was pretty much Cradle of Filth making nothing but radio hit songs. That's what it felt like to me. And Cradle of Filth is not a radio hit style genre of music or band. And yeah, they do include a radio hit type of song on each of their albums, like Her Ghost in the Fog, or Frost on Her Pillow, or something like that. But I guess they decided, like, for Thornography, they're just going to make the entire album like that, and make it very mainstream friendly. And that's part of what makes Thornography so controversial. Unfortunately for everyone else, and fortunately for me in my ears, Thornography is absolutely great. That is a great album. There's a lot of awesome bangers on here. If I had to like summarize this album with a word, it would be fun. It's a very fun album to listen to. There's so many great songs, and some of the best songs. I would say that the Bionic Man on this album I have it at 5 stars, but if I could rank it 6 out of 5 stars, I probably would. It's that good. That is such a great song, lyrically written, and just how it plays out, just great stuff. And you have other great fun songs on here, like Tonight in Flames, Libertina Grim, very fun song to listen to. The opening is a little on the weak side, like Dirge Inferno. It's average. It's not a bad song. It's not below average, but it is a little bit on the average side of things. And there's some other songs that are a little bit average, like Lovesick for Mina. But plenty of other great songs on here, like Under the Huntress Moon. Temptation is on here. That's another kind of radio hit. If there ever is a radio hit song, Temptation would be probably their most radio hit friendly type song, or at least one of. I know Nymphetamine was technically a radio hit friendly song, but Temptation, absolutely, that was a try hard attempt right there. And it was good. That is a great song. And there's some really great fun songs on this album. That's why it is ranked above Cryptoriana. Yeah, I put Thornography above Cryptoriana. What we're gonna do. Let's move on to that last one that I mentioned, which was Damnation and a Day, another concept album. And this album is what I had mentioned before. This is where Cradle of Filth got a budget, a massive, massive, massive budget. And that would. So I'm just gonna flat out say that this album is keyword ambitious, because they were very ambitious when they made this album, and because they were so ambitious, even though they didn't execute with song diversity and the songwriting itself, they executed absolutely with instrumentation and composition, and working with like the orchestra and the choir that they had, that they were working with and all that. They executed on all that. It was just the songs themselves, the songwriting, not the lyrics, just the structure of the songs and how they flowed, and most of the songs had a lot of sameness to them from one to the other. Not most, but some of them. And so, with all that said, if this album wasn't so ambitious, if it didn't have that big giant, if it wasn't a concept album, it didn't have that big giant orchestra and the choir and the big budget and basically all the money thrown at it, here's Cradle of Filth with all the money, here's what they can do. If it didn't have all those things, it would probably be somewhere in the B tier. But because it has all those things and the ambition behind it, it's A tier. An amazing, amazing album. Definitely worth experiencing. Absolutely. Just for the sheer production of what that album is and the story it tells and the ambition behind it all. Amazing. Absolutely worth experiencing. All right. So we got 3 left. Let's go with the non-studio album. So this is another side album. This is Bittersuits to Succubi. This album, I'm going to just leave it right over here for now. This album was part of it, a good part of it, is a reworking of songs, the best songs from The Principle of Evil Made Flesh. And this is when they had better recording quality, better budget behind them, and all of that. And they ended up cranking out a very awesome album because of that. And I guess I spoiled a little bit, but yeah, it is absolutely amazing, and so amazing that I am putting it at the tippy top of the A tier. It is that good. Bittersuits to Succubi is definitely an amazing album, definitely worth experiencing from start to finish. There's so many great songs on here, and some of the best Cradle songs ever are on here, like The Black Goddess Rises too. Just absolutely amazing. And this album is also a great example of how you open and close an album. The opening song, All Hope in Eclipse. Amazing. Absolutely, it's a 5 out of 5. By the way, that Black Goddess Rises too, that's one of the reworked songs from Principle of Evil Made Flesh. And that song, I have it here as a 5, but it's not a 5. that song is a 6. And if I could give it a 7 out of 5, I would. It's that good. It's one of Cradle's best songs ever. And it's on this album. And this album has other absolutely amazing, great songs. They also have a cover on here. So overall, this album isn't a full-blown, dedicated studio album. So it is that weird sort of side album, but it has a lot of songs on here. There's 10 songs on here. It has some weird, Dinner at Deviant's Palace is, well, it's a weird thing. It's not a song. It's just a weird thing. You'll find sometimes on some Cradle albums that there's some weird stuff. I don't rate the weird stuff or the instrumental only pieces for any of the Cradle albums. I kind of just set those aside. Not that the instrumentation only songs or the weird stuff songs are bad. They're not bad. They're just not what I would examine for gauging the quality of these albums overall. Because if I did, there's a lot of instrumentation songs on Damnation in a Day, and I would rank Damnation in a Day even higher because it has the entire choir and orchestra budget behind it. So it would obviously make those songs amazing. But with all that said, Bittersweet Succubi is an amazing, amazing album. If it was a full-fledged album, it would probably be S tier. It's that good. And Vempire, for that matter, if that was a full-fledged album, that would be probably S tier as well. So just want to mention how close both Vempire and Bittersweet Succubi were to be in S tier. All right, and now we're left with the final two. Shocker, shocker, shocker. It's Cruelty and the Beast and Midian. Both of these albums came out after Dusk and Her Embrace and before Damnation in a Day, and also before Bittersweet Succubi. So essentially what happened with Cradle is for their major studio albums, first was Damnation in a Day, second was Cruelty and a Beast, and third was Midian. Technically second, third, fourth, because Principle of Evil Made Flesh was the first one, but they basically released 3, and I'm letting you know this right now, both of them, Cruelty and a Beast and Midian, are S-tier life-changing albums. They released 3 S-tier life-changing albums in a row. That's unheard of in music industry ever. Like, there are bands that release, 11 out of 10, type of albums, life-changing albums. There's bands out there, sure. Yeah. Ramones did it, Sex Pistols did it. There's plenty of bands out there. Nirvana did it with Nevermind, right? There's plenty of bands out there that do stuff like that. But I don't know if you can... There aren't many that have done that 3 times, where they have 3 albums that are absolutely life-changing and do all 3 of those all in a row with each other. Unheard of. So, with that said, is this the final? Nope, it's not the final. Sorry, I'm going to break some hearts, but Cruelty and the Beast is my favorite Cradle album of all time, and because of that, it's better than Dusk and Her Embrace. I apologize. Sorry, I broke some hearts, but Cruelty and the Beast is absolutely amazing. It has my favorite Cradle of Filth song of all time, which is Bathory Aria, and it's probably one of their longest, if not their longest song that they ever made, and it is a masterpiece of a song. It is one of those 6 or 7 out of 5 star type songs. Absolutely amazing. There are songs on this album, as well as on Dusk and Her Embrace and Midian, but there are songs on each of these albums that they play at every single concert that they perform at, or just about every single one that I'm aware of that I attend that they perform at, and just an amazing album. And Cruelty and the Beast, part of what makes it get that edge over Dusk and Her Embrace is just the concept. This is essentially their first full-fledged concept album attempt. Dusk and Her Embrace was also in that middling area. Was it a concept album? Yes, no, not quite sure if it landed. Whereas Cruelty and the Beast was definitively a concept album. They landed it in all aspects, lyrically, musically, cohesively as an overall package, just absolutely phenomenal, amazing album. However, as I said, albums that are on the left, right, are the highest of ranking. So we have Dusk and Her Embrace here in the middle. We got Cruelty and Beast to the far left, which means Cruelty and Beast is better than these two. Unfortunately, Cruelty and the Beast being my favorite album doesn't mean it's the best. Inarguably, the best album from Cradle of Filth, I'm breaking my own art here, is Midian. Midian, without a doubt, is Cradle of Filth's best musical achievement. It is a masterpiece beyond masterpieces. It's in the S tier for a reason. It will make or break regarding whether or not you will be a lifelong Cradle of Filth fan or not. Just this one album will do that. I mean, Cruelty and Beast will do that. Dusk and Her Embrace will do that. Absolutely. But Midian, when I was ranking the individual songs, now there are some songs on Dusk and Her Embrace and some songs on Cruelty and the Beast where they weren't 5 out of 5s or 6 out of 5s type songs. There were some that unfortunately were 4 out of 5s, right? There were some great songs. How dare they only have great songs? However, put in perspective, Midian has every song 5 out of 5. That's kind of where it stands. It's just that good. It's just that solid of an overall production. Every single song is absolutely amazing on Midian. There isn't a single song on here that is wasted space at all. I mean, I'm not talking about the instrumental tracks. Obviously, those are space. It's not wasted. It's just there for ambience and to give you a little bit of a reprieve from the onslaught. But yeah, there's so many amazing songs on this album. For example, the one song that probably their most popular song, and the song that they play at every single concert, I believe every single concert that they ever do, is Her Ghost in the Fog. That is without a doubt everyone generally recognizes as their best song, and it is an amazing song, and that's on this album. But there's so many other amazing songs on this album. It opens up with a 5 out of 5 with Cthulhu Dawn. And it closes with a 5 out of 5 with Tortured Soul Asylum, and everything in between is 5 out of 5. This album, every single song from this particular album, when I'm playing my overall all music playlist, and I'm putting that on random, and it's randomly bouncing between like Green Day or Queen, and a Midian song comes up, it doesn't feel there's no skipping of Midian songs. It doesn't matter if it's sandwiched in between the Cranberries and Led Zeppelin. Like, a Midian song plays, a Midian song stays, and I will listen to that song. Each individual song stands alone and is great on its own, and you don't need to listen to it in the entirety of an overall album package. And if you listen to Midian as an overall album package, it's going to explode your mind. It's just that great. So, I mean, I don't want to undersell the other S tier albums on here, Cruelty and the Beast and Dusk and Her Embrace. I just want to make mention that Midian is definitively the best Cradle of Filth album. It's not my favorite, but it's the best one. It's objectively the best one. But you can't go wrong. So, if you are Cradle of Filth curious, here's how you start listening to Cradle of Filth. You start with the S tiers. Pick any one of them. It doesn't have to be Midian. You could pick any one of them. I would say, if you try Dusk and Her Embrace and you're not feeling it, try Cruelty. If you're not feeling that, try Midian. Or try Midian first and then Cruelty. However it is you want. Just try each of those S tiers. One of them might hit, if not all 3 of them. And if they do, boy, are you in for a world of awesomeness, because after you get your fill from those 3 albums, and there's a lot of fill right there, you get all of these amazing A-tier albums to listen to, and they are absolutely amazing. And if you're still thirsty for more, and you probably will be, you got another awesome set of great albums right over here. And then you're pretty much going to be locked in, so you might as well get the additional albums over here because you're going to be a fan at that point. You're going to attend the concerts. Just skip Manticore. Alright, that's it. That is the official ranking of all the major and semi-major Cradle of Filth albums. And this is irrefutable. You cannot post a comment arguing otherwise. You have to abide by what I state here. But if you really want to, I will read your comments, and if you disagree, let me know. You're going to be wrong, but I'll listen. Let me know, and maybe I'll comment back and let you know how wrong you are for not agreeing 100% about this particular tier listing of the Cradle of Filth albums. With that said, have a good one.